So today's class we will go for constructor. So what is constructor? Why we are using constructors? So in the previous class we have created a class and class name student. Okay, and how did I initialize the data to this student class? I have taken one separate method, that is set details method. Using this details method, I have initialized the data of student. So this is S1 student, S2 students. I have assigned the data to S1 student by calling set details method. So self dot name equal to, I have collected this one dynamically. Next is self dot rule number equal to int input. I have taken this data dynamically. Next, I have printed the details by using get details method, where I have used self. Self indicates this method belonging to the instance method where I have printed the details. This is exactly previous program name and print self dot rule number I have printed. Next, I have created object. So this one is S1 object, S2 object. S1 equal to student I have written. Then what happened? One object is created, but is it immediately assigned the state of this object? No. Means name and rule number, immediately it is not initialized when I create the object. Okay. So separately, I have used one method, S1 dot set details method. When I use this method, then only instance data is created, name and rule number is created. But at the time of object creation, this is not initialized. I hope you remember this one. But I don't want to use separate method to initialize the data. At the time of object creation, here object created, and using this method, I initialize the data. Okay, but I don't want to use this separate method to initialize the data. At the time of object creation, I want to assign data to this object. At that time, we need to go for constructor. Okay. So why we are using constructor? Constructors used to initialize. Okay. Initialize is nothing but assigning values to the state of an object. Okay. Used to state is nothing but name, rule number is belonging to student state. So if you go for pen, color of the pen, cost of the pen, that are the instance variable. Okay. So to initialize the instance data, how you want to create, when you want to initialize instance data? At the time of object creation, not separately need one method. Okay. Use it to initialize the data at the time of object creation. Okay. So to do this one, we use constructor. How can I write constructor? We know how to write method and how to invoke the method. Now we will go for how to write a constructor. So you have to follow a standard syntax for writing the constructor. So constructor also looks like a method. There is no any different. But by default, we have to use a common method name that for constructor, that is 2 underscores init. Okay. So syntax of constructor is def followed by two underscore followed by init. While writing init, you have to write everything in lowercase letter followed by two underscores, and you have to write one definite argument, that is self. Okay. Next one. You can go for what we call the logic, what you want to write it here. So this is the syntax. So here followed by you have use your required arguments also. So this is the common syntax we will use to write the constructor. So based on this one, we have divided this constructor into two types. So first one, default constructor, or you may call this one as non-parameterized constructor. Non-parameterized constructor. So second one, parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. Okay. So very simple. So I am going to write the syntax. By using that syntax, you can understand. See here, for this method, am I supplying any argument? You ignore self, except self. Are you supplying any arguments? No. If you do not supply any arguments, we call such type of constructors as a non-parameterized constructor. So whatever the thing I have written it here, which is comes under the non-parameterized constructor. So I am rewriting this one more time. So init. So next one, self colon, you can write the block it here. Next one, parameterized constructor means I will write def followed by two underscore followed by init, and self I will write followed by A, B, C, like that. How many arguments you need, that many you can write followed by colon. Next you can write the block. And while writing this block, you have to give the indentation. Here also you should give the indentation. So this is the way we need to write the constructor. And one more thing I will tell you. So when you go for this method, to invoke this method, you definitely need to call this method using this object. S1 object created. Using this S1 object, I can go for set details method. Then only this method can be invoked. But coming to the constructor, you need not to call this method, call the constructor manually, which automatically calls at the time of object creation. Okay. So this one you should remember. I will show this one with the proof. So when constructor is invoked, constructor it invoke. Invoke is nothing but call. So in general terminology, we can call it as a call, but in programming terminology, we call this one as a invoke. It is nothing but your constructor. This constructor can invoke at the time of object creation. Object creation. So let us go for this example, and we will check whether it is executing automatically or not. So for that, I will go for Tony. Right. So class followed by simple I am writing. I'm not writing any student kind of data, or otherwise we can go for student. First we will go for simple. Simple. What I am doing, just to first I am defining the common method. So this is method A. Which type of method? Instance method. So I am writing this one as a self. So simply I am printing I am instance method of simple class. This I have written. Now I want to create an object. So how I am creating S1 is one object. and this object is belonging to the simple class. So simple I have written. Next, simply I am printing task that has completed. Now I am running. So are you calling this method A? No. So can you see this line? We cannot see. Directly I can see a message as task as completed. Is it clear or not? Yes. Now what is my job? I want to call this, I want to print this statement. So to print this statement, I should call this method. Observe here carefully. S1 dot method A I am calling, then only this block can be executed. Now you observe here carefully. So I am instance method of simple class. Is it printed or not? Yes. Okay, when it is method, you definitely need to call this method. Okay, now instead of method, I am going to use the constructor. Just now I said how to write constructor. Therefore, what is the syntax? Two underscores. In it, I will write, and again two underscores, followed by I should write self. What message I am writing it here? Print. I am constructor. Constructor of which class? Simple class. Are you clear? So this is the constructor. This constructor is going to be call. When it will call? Which automatically call at the time of object creation. Are you creating object or not? Yes, I am going to remove this one. So when I run this program, you can see only task as completed. Just I am going to create object. S1 equal to simple I am writing. Am I calling this init method? No. But how it will be called? This statement allow you. Now when I run this one, can you see I am constructor? Calls. Is this clear? So what is the difference you observe between method and constructor? Method you need to manually call, but constructor which automatically calls. Is this clear? Right. So next one, I want to make this one as a parameterized constructor. So which type of constructor right now it is? This is default constructor. Okay. Why I am saying this one as default constructor? Because I am not writing any parameters at here. You have to raise questions. Sir, you have written self head here. Then how can you say it is not parameterized constructor? So self is the default which is going to maintain this object, S1 object. If you print S1 and this self, this both will be printed same. Okay, so just I am printing self. Okay, next here I am printing S1. So are you expecting the same addresses or no? Yes. So can you see these both will be printed. So simply you remember this S1 is going to be represented by self at this place. Okay. So this S1 address is going to be referred by this self, but this self is not an parameter. Okay. This which automatically calls at this place. Next one, I am removing this one. What can I do? I want to supply arguments to this constructor. So that I am writing positional arguments A comma B comma C I am writing. So here, am I supplying the arguments? No. When I run this one, you will get one message as simple init expecting missing 3 required positional argument which are A comma B comma C. Then how can I supply values to this one? So while creating object, you have written class at this. This is actually constructor. So this is the class name I have written followed by 2 parentheses. In between, you need to supply these values. So 10, 20, 30, I am supplying. Then what happens? These 3 values will be copies to A comma B comma C respectively. And this is positional argument. Now I am going to run. Let us know whether it is printing this error or not. Yes. So is it printing error? It is not printing. And you can see task as completed. To know what are the values of this one, you can print them. So print A comma B comma C, just I am writing this one. When I run, can you see 10 comma 20 comma 30, 10, 20, 30? Yes, it has printed. Is this clear? So parameterized constructor, you should write A comma B comma C. And not only A comma B comma C, you can write your own variable names. And you have to supply to this constructor while creating the object, and you can give the required number of variable values at this position. So this is default constructor, and this is parameterized constructor. And the previous thing which you did not write, A comma B comma C, that can be considered as a default constructor. Now, let us know how it will be required. So previously I have written one class. Which class? Student class I have written. So see here, class, student, and previously what I did, def set details method I have used. This is self, and I am taking the roll number of student. So this is input. I am taking string type only, enter roll number. So self dot, what is another thing, name I have taken, which is also belonging to string type, enter name I have taken. Next I have printed the details, self dot get details I have written. So self, and I print the rule number, comma, name. These both I printed using this method. Next, you observe here carefully. Right. So here, directly I am printing task has completed. When I run this one, I can see the result as task has completed. Yes. Next, what I am doing, I am creating the object. So here, S1 is the object I am creating of which class? The student class. So student I have written. Then is there any constructor? No constructor is available. When no constructor is available, what happened? S1 object is created. Sorry, 1 minute. So when S1 is created, S1 object is created, but any data initialized to this one? No data is initialized. So when it is initialized, when you call set details, then only it initializes. Okay, so here to know whether it is initialized or not, I am going to take S1 dot. In the previous class, I said how to print the instance data. S1 dot underscore underscore DICT. I am printing. Now you observe carefully. So any data initialized to this one? No. When it is initialized, if you call the set details method manually, then only it will start off initializing. And when you print S1 dot DICT, what are the details you are going to give, that will be created. So previously empty is asking rule number. One I have given. Next name, Raju I have given. When I hit enter, these two instance data is created for S1 object. But are you want to take additional special method? I do not need. When object is created, immediately I want to assign the data. So that instead of this one, I am going to use init method. Okay. So when it is init, means when it is constructor, do you need to specially mention set details? No need. Because at the time of object creation, this will be invoked. So when I run this one, is it immediately asking me rule number? Yes, but previously it is asked you? No. Okay, so rule number 1 I am giving, name Raju I am giving, so that these both the details will be added. So did you understand the principle of constructor? Constructor, majorly we are using to assign the instance data at the time of object creation. And one more thing you should remember. So throughout your program execution, for each object, constructor will be invoked only one time. Are you clear? So here you observe this one more thing. I'm going to note down this thing. Okay. So constructor can invoke only once for an object creation. Okay, how many times object can create? Only one time. How many times a human can born? Only one time he can born. Are you clear? Only one time a person can born. Similarly, throughout your program, one object can be created only once. Okay, at that once object is created, you cannot re-invoke the constructor one more time for the same object. Are you clear? Constructor can invoke only once for an object. Okay, when it is invoked at the time of object creation. Are you clear? But when it is method, you can call infinite number of times. There is no any condition. So now you observe here. I am going to call this constructor which can be invoked only once. Only once. Next, this get details method is available. I am going to call multiple number of times. S2 dot get details. S3 dot get details. And I am going to run this one. So 1 Raju I have given. What is the mistake? S2. Oh, sorry. This is S1 only. S1. When I run this one, so 1 Raju I am giving. How many times this method you can use? This get details is constructor? No, this is not constructor. But how many times you can call? Infinite number of times you can call. Okay. But coming to the object, coming to the constructor, this can be created only when object is created. So you have to ask one more question. Sir, I will write S2 equal to student. Then constructor is calling. Then how can you say this is calling only once? It is calling twice. This is calling twice only. But what happens? For each object, how many times it will call? Only once it will call. That you need to remember. Okay. So this is the way constructor can be created and constructor will be invoked. And we have seen how to pass argument to the constructor also. Now we will go for